Let the fun and mayhem begin as we open up this great big box of Creality CR-M4. See you guys inside. Hey guys, welcome to today's video. As I said in that intro, we are unboxing and taking a first peek at Creality's CR-M4. Now, what is the CR-M4? Well, you've seen the old CR10 Max, right? Well, meet the new iteration. So this guy is a 450 by 450 by 470 millimeter build plate area. It's massive with some big step upgrades over the CR10 Max. So price point wise, same as the CR10 Max. But scale, oh my. This thing is huge. You guys can see, usually there's a nice black tool cabinet sitting back here. This thing won't even fit on the tool cabinet. It's huge. And getting it out of the box is going to be a pretty monumentous task today as we get it out and try to get it assembled in this video. Now this video we will do assembly, power it on, take a look at it, and be expecting another video in a week or two after, I played with it, to see how the printer's actual performance is. So this guy, again, as I said, this thing is huge. And it's going to take quite a lot to get it out of the box. And that is what we're going to get started doing. But first, if you're new here and you're curious about 3D printers and stuff like that, because it's been a little bit since I touched anything filament on this channel, hit that subscribe button, join us. Make sure you're subscribed, make sure you got that bell, make sure you get the notifications. If you have questions about 3D printing, always hit me up in the comments. My email address is out there as well, so you can email me directly. And if you can, do me a favor, at the end of the video, if you enjoyed the content, hit that thumbs up button. Let us know we did well for you. So let's start by getting this thing down on the floor so I can actually get it out of the box and get up on the table so we can start taking a look at the parts. Alright, so the box is very heavy. There's going to be another camera angle I'm going to go in and out of here so you guys can see as I set the parts up on the table. But most importantly, we need the knife to cut the box open. As I said, this thing is a very heavy printer. The box is huge and it's hard for me to carry this thing around. So it'll be good to get it clear here. All right. We gotta make sure it looks like the foam prevented any damage. You saw the hit in the top here. That was not any fault of Creality. So as we open up the box, we have the user manual. Looks like a nozzle cleaner. It's really cool stickers. Looks like we have about 250.5 kilograms of a spool of 1.75 Creality. So okay, half a spool. Doesn't seem like enough to truly start out a printer of this scope, but hey, we'll run with it. We got the goodie bags, all kinds of goodies in there, so we get that out of the box. We got a power cord. We've got putty knife. Looks like we got some kind of mounting bracket. That looks like it goes to the control screen, which is right there. And it's not scratched. Now this looks very much similar to the control screen that we see on the Ender 3S1 Pro. So I'm wondering if that's going to be identical technology right there. Alright. So this looks like, this one is a little different than the Ender 3S1 Pro. This actually has a dual filament post. So it's got, you can have two 1 kilogram spools on each side, and then we've got the Filament Run Out Protection sensor right there. Awesome. So we keep digging into the foam. More foam. Oh, I'm starting to see pieces as we get rid of foam. Oh boy. So I see the top rail here. We see the build plate. I'm actually noticing there's support rods tucked away in the sides here. So these will be cross braces. These are always good to have. I found with the CR10s, these are very handy on keeping the printer from vibrating around. So let's take out the top frame. All right, so here's the top frame, the top T, the X and the Y axis. And you can see why I have opted for the table instead of the tool bench. This thing is huge. So just kind of getting out of the box here, and I'll try to get some close-ups later. We've got the CR touch, not a BL touch, which is good. That metal pin, I like that a lot. Direct drive extruder, identical to the Ender 3S1 Pros. A lot of good pieces here, but let's get the coup de grace out of here. Let's get that main body out of the box here, if I can. And here's where all the weight is. All right, so they've got foam tucked in here to keep the bed from moving. That is actually making it more difficult to get the printer out of the box. But it's meant there to immobilize. So it's doing its job correctly. It's just a little bit difficult to get out. And one thing too, you notice that we have the belt guards. We don't have this on the older CR10 Max. This is actually a really nice upgrade, but it can also be a hindrance if I have to change cables for some reason. But let's get this up on the table. All right. I think, guys, that is all the bits. So we will close up this box. We'll do some closer shots. Let's get some close-up shots of all the bits, then we'll start putting it together. So like I said, closer shot up of what was in the box. We've got the power cord, putty knife, the generic pair of snippers. We've got the LCD mount that we'll have to mount. We've got the LCD control, which like I said is identical to the Ender 3S1 Pros. Got some zip ties, we got the thumb drive, all the bolts and all the tools you'll need to assemble. This looks like a replacement hot end. So that's pretty cool. That's going to be handy to have around. Got the manual with what looks like a filament declogger. We've got our filament. We've got our dual mount filament holder with filament run out sensor. We've got our braces that will mount here and up on the axis. And we've got the bed itself, which looks gorgeous. I mean, it's clean, it's beautiful. We've got cable guards on all the moving cables that are gonna be running around. That's a good thing and a bad thing. This is a pull-off magnetic PLI, which is different similar to the CR10 Maxes, but this is very smooth, very clean looking. Then we've got the actual extruder in itself. Direct drive extruder. We've got a CR touch. We've got cable guide and chain on this as well. Dual Z axis, which is actually belt controlled, not separately power motor controlled. So that is a big change. You can see how that one spins, turns the belt, and we'll actually keep them turning in sync, which is pretty cool. You've got your dual motor, you've got your stepper motors nicely aligned in there. Now when it comes to assembly, it looks like there's a total of like 10 bolts. So let's hop over. I know assembly is kind of the harder parts to see sometimes because I get in the way, but we're gonna get this one assembled. All right guys, so we're starting the assembly process, and you can kind of see I moved the bottom of the printer into an upright position. As well, this guy is just massive and kind of unwieldy that I've had to set it upright like that so that I can try to get the 4 long bolts that will go in the 2 frames in from the bottom, where I have to, 1, tighten them from, but 2, also get that T-frame connected. So you're going to watch me kind of struggle a little bit. If the audio just happens to cut out, that's probably because I tried a few choice words. But basically, 4 bolts down here in the bottom. Looking at the 4 or 5 steps that it takes to actually assemble this printer, it looks like these are the only 4 bolts that are on this bottom area. And I definitely want to get you guys a closer look at the machine itself, because we've got USB-C, we've got USB, USB, Ethernet, all built onto this printer, which is really cool. But right now, I'm going to muscle up and get that T-frame bolted in onto those 4 bolts so that this actually starts looking like a 3D printer. And like I said, I'll let the camera roll while I do it. But Eva has to give her point of view too, if you heard the squeaks. But I'm going to get this guy actually framed together. So in for docking. Woohoo! All right. 1 connection made. 2 connections made. We'll kind of pull them a little bit in. I'm not going to tighten it all the way down. I'm just going to pull it in a little bit. I know you guys can't see me tightening these 4 bolts, but I'm just kind of getting them not overly tight. Kind of getting it to where they'll hold the upper axis in place. All right. And there goes the 4th. All right. Now we're starting to look like a 3D printer. Tighten those in. Make sure everything's good and snug. All right. Now we're gonna put this guy nicely back in the center of the table. All right. So you saw that was really hard to do by yourself. I recommend doing that with 2 people. But now we have a printer coming together. So we actually look like a printer, and you guys can actually kind of get the scope of the print area, because that's my chest. Basically fits in that build volume. It's just outrageously huge. So it is quite a big machine to behold. So yeah, next we'll start getting the LCD mounted over here, and we'll start plugging some cables in, and we'll get this guy powered on. All right guys, so now we're getting the LCD mounted on. So we've got the bracket, we've got the 3 M4 screws, and it goes right in this position. So unfortunately you won't be able to see me really, you know, bolting it in, unfortunately, because, you know, it's hidden underneath the bracket, but it's very nicely tucked away here. After this, we'll then start putting on the brace frame, the bracers that go from the T-frame down here, and then we'll start doing all the wiring and hopefully get this guy all kind of started put together. And of course, we're going to do the LCD wire while we're here, but we'll get this nice bracket on here. Now, difference between the CR10 Max is the location of this. The old display was on a frame here that made the printer stick out off the shelf compared to my others really horribly. So I kind of like that this is kind of shifted off to the side, but the other problem with it being shifted off to the side here is this printer is already so massive that it just makes it wider. But it's a good thing because you have this tightener over here that is also sticking out. So this actually kind of gives you a square form for the printer, which is also a good thing. So almost got the third screw tightened. Then we'll tighten all three. Make sure that bracket is firmly in place, and we'll slot our cable into our LCD and close this one, close this bit of the construction up. And no, I did not, whoop, I hit the camera, of course. I didn't get this screw in all the way. We'll get him in there. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this content. Remember, hit that subscribe button if you're new here or interested in following my journey with this printer as it goes and joins the rest of my shop. Possibly even may replace a couple printers if it pans out to be a really good machine. All right, we got those all in here. We've got the cable. So we will take and we will slot that into the port on the screen here. Make sure we properly port that in. You've got your two connectors that slot in right there. And there's your LCD. Job done. So now let's move on to the bracers that we'll attach here up to the T-frame. All right, guys, so now it's time to put in our support frames. So these are pretty straightforward, pretty simple to put in. They bolt right into the sides of the printer. We've just got to make sure we bolt them in properly. And for that, of course, you always want to check your manual and read your instructions. So looking at this, the shorter bolt on top, the longer one on the bottom. So, and which end does the washer go in? The washer goes on the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to attach at the top first. So we've got a support rod, we've got our small bolt, real easy to do. Make sure, yep, I've got that correct. And I'm just going to lightly put that in place. Because I've got to take the longer bolt with the washer and take it down here and look at my distance. Because I may have to unscrew to get the right distance, which I did, and then I will slot that bolt into the chassis and we will tighten those up. And what this does is, especially as you get higher up on the build, this removes the wobble. So the printer, if it's moving really fast and stuff like that, it won't shake as bad, and it just gives strength. Because as the gantry moves up, the weight moves, the weight shifts. And this makes sure that doesn't become a stress point on the 4 bolts that are down below on the printer, but also just on the printer itself. And we've got to do one more on the other side. I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to put the short one in up top, the short bolt. And you won't be able to see it on this one, but the connector is hidden behind the screen on this side, and it'll be the same thing, the long bolt with the short screw. We will make sure, one, that it's the right length, which I got it at now. Looks like I need to tighten up here a little bit. This has come loose, but that's not a problem. We can tighten that up real simple. So, and we'll get the bolt in there. Yep. Maybe I'll get the bolt in there, bolt and washer in there. All right, and there we go. So I'll tighten that one up. We've got this in here now, and this printer, as far as assembly wise, we're almost done. We've got to plug in a bunch of cables, then we'll hopefully get this guy fired up for the end of the video here. And then you guys will have to definitely stick tuned for the next video where we actually take her to a print and get this guy. Honestly, it won't move up into my shop quickly. One, size. I don't want to take it up there and rearrange my entire shop until I know, one, we're in really good working condition. You know, that matters to me, that we are performing correctly. But also just kind of one of those things, some test printing, different things like that. I may pull the Creality Sonic Pad off of my Ender 3S1 Pro and give it a shot on here, but we'll just have to try that out. So next phase, we are going to move to plugging in the cables and going from there. All right, so plugging in the cables. It's going to be a little bit harder to show than what I would hope, but we are going to get this cable caddy on here. We're going to bring this guy over and we're going to get him situated in his clamp bracket here. Push him in, make sure it locks into place, and there are 3 little bolts that will hold that there. So I'm going to get those in there here in a minute. But over here on the back, I'll move the build plate forward. On each stepper motor, there's the motor cable that you'll need to plug in for each stepper motor on each side of the printer. So I've just done that for both. And we've got that. I've got to put the 3 bolts in. Then you've actually got this large cable that will come off the back of the printer here. Make sure you get the clip in place. And you just heard it pop in place for me. And the same thing happens here. And that just popped in, and then you can just gently tug your cable to where it slips in to the grommet there. And that is providing all your XY commands for all this stuff to start moving and be controlled by the motherboard. I got to put the 3 small screws through here and bolt that in place. And then we have, I think, all but 1 cable attached. And that 1 cable that's not attached, I believe, is this guy, but I got to double check in the book real quick, so I'm going to do that. There's actually the connector here that connects the filament sensor in the back. I misread that. Yeah, that's a good thing. I noticed that extra one sticking out. So that is now plugged in, and we got to tuck it away so that the bed doesn't grab it. But you can see now we've got these all connected, we've got these all connected. Now it's filament time. So we've got the filament bracket with the filament sensor, and this guy literally, we'll get the filament sensor right, we'll get this in correct position, and this literally just clicks in place. You've got the filament sensor right here. You take the wire, you are plugged in. So filament run out sensors on, everything's connected here for all this stuff to work. We've got plugs here, the bolts are now in, so this will stay connected and protect our cabling. Same thing here to protect our cabling. It's all in place. We got the back stepper motor plugged in, we've got both the side stepper motors plugged in, and we've got the filament sensor plugged in. So everything is now plugged in, connected, and we had done the screen earlier when we connected the screen. Guess what, guys? This thing's assembled. We're ready to look at powering it on. Now, one thing I will say before you plug in your power cable, and pardon the motion here, you notice your power plug. Sometimes on these printers, there is a voltage switch that we have to look for. And that is what I'm looking for right now. And I do not see one. So I'm going to flip the printer over and double check that there isn't one. So I'm just going to lift it up on its side here and double check. I'm not finding one on the body of the printer. So we probably don't need to worry about voltage. So I'm going to move that out of the way. We're going to get our power cable. Let's plug this guy in and get it started. I am anxious to hear this baby roar. I'm kind of curious to see how loud it really is. So hopefully it's actually a pretty quiet little bird. And for the crowning moment, here's hoping we did it right. I heard the CR touch doing its job. I hear the main fans, so we are a bit loud. The LCD is firing up. I would say we are starting to get in business. You can hear that printer powered on and roaring. The CR30 is lit up. The CR Touch for the CR-M4. This thing looks great, and like I said, we've got USB on the front, USB-C on the front. We have Ethernet and USB on the side, and on the far side over here we have power. So guys, that's the CR-M4 powered on. So we've got it put together, we got it powered on. She's got a bit of a whine to her, which I'm not surprised. With this kind of design, it's very common to have this, and to me it sounds like it's in the board, around the boards. So where most of the fans are, it's not really this one that sounds loud or this one, but again, very beautiful, nice direct drive, dual filament holders. You can actually change the mounting up here if you want and move the filament sensor to the other side depending on your shop layout. And now it's just getting this thing ready to start printing. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Definitely, if you want to see how this thing prints and my true thoughts on the printer after I've used it for a couple weeks, definitely make sure you're subscribed and notification bell so you can see that. If you have any questions, definitely hit me down in the comments down below, or feel free to email me. And like always, if you enjoyed this content, hit that thumbs up button for me. See you guys in the next episode.